All right, now we're live.
Wow, we're live. That's it.
There you go.
The fancy
All right.
intros. No hard rock music. Come on.
Nothing.
Oh man.
I felt like that would take away a little bit. Well, okay. Well, hold on. I got something here. Let me just see. I was trying to make a video before when I was having Graham on.
Yeah.
And I kind of did something, but there needs to be more like cuts. There needs to be more stuff in it. But I have this little intro here. So
I mean to dare you.
but I like it. I like it,
okay.
but it needs to go on into something else. So it's just this for now. And then so tell me what you think. That's it.
We went totally meta. There was no intro, so I asked about the intro, and you showed me an intro in progress.
I know. I just yeah. So, do you know what film that is?
No, I recognize it, but I don't know what it is.
Okay, so are you familiar with like Takashi Miike? That name ring a bell?
Yeah.
Okay, so he's done the claim to fame are Audition, that horror film, and then Itchy the Killer.
Right.
He worked on a sort of it was called Sukiyaki Western Django,
right.
Where it was it's kind of like it's Japanese actors speaking English, like they're like it's and they're really trying to pronunciate the entire. I don't think they speak English at all, and so they're just. So it's an English movie, but by Japanese actors, and it's a mixture of the like I think it's a mixture of Seven Samurai with Yojimbo with I think it's just those two films. I think it's just those ones, but it's like a Sergio Leone film. But it's like so that when I was getting into him, or I was in high school, so I was like early 2000s. And so he had a bunch of films already from the 90s. And that film that right there with the intro, that's kind of like there's a movie there. And then it starts off first with this they just kind of like break the fourth wall, like look at you, and they just kind of start the film off with like this countdown. And then they end the film with them like just this bloody shootout. And then one pulls out a bazooka from out of nowhere. And the other one takes out like a energy ball from his chest, and then they just shoot it at each other, and it destroys the world. So it's a movie that follows a storyline, a regular storyline, but it's just zany. It's just like it has a zany beginning and a zany ending, and it's just So
that guy makes like a movie a week. I mean, that guy is like one of those prolific filmmakers ever.
Yeah. So. Yeah, that's like let me get this up real quick before I let's see here. All right. Well, if anyone's watching, I have Chuck Dixon on. Chuck Dixon is the most prolific writer in comics. I tell people, oh, he created Bane from Batman, and they go, oh, he created him. Oh, that's who you're working with. I'm like, yeah. So I was trying to think any rundown of your. I don't know if it's any use because again, it's like your audience is going to come over here and watch. They already know you, and I don't have an audience, so it's like, But yeah, so you write comics. You're the most prolific writer in comics. We worked together on a series called My Sister Suprema. I have the art right up behind me right here. And this is supposed to be the back cover for volume 3.
Oh, cool.
But it's supposed to be like 8 more rows.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So it's like 10 rows. So it's just shots of her, different things. I'll show you eventually.
Cool.
But other than that, so that's so I guess it's good. It's a good introduction. Sorry about that.
It's all right.
Okay, so the Takashi Miike thing where he makes about it's like 5 somethings It could be a play, it could be a TV movie, it could be a full feature film.
Right.
Like 5 things a year. I think he's slowed down now, but I'm not sure. I haven't really followed him after, I don't know, like 13 Assassins or something like that. Like,
yeah, okay, yeah, I saw that one.
Yeah, so he had been doing a couple of other more serious films, right. But so he kind of like, I was attracted to like people who were like creating, I don't know, like Woody Allen. He would make a movie a year,
right?
And then he would write all these different like little plays, and he would also write these books, and he was just always very prolific.
Right.
And I liked that. I liked that whole thing. And then Takashi Miike, and then filmmakers. What was it like? It was like Clint Eastwood, and then Don Siegel. So it's just like people who were like constantly cranking out things. And then I hadn't known, like when I got comics, I didn't know the names of the artists. I just kind of like, I knew that by the art, and I would get it. I didn't read them. I didn't read them until my like early 20s.
Right.
Then I started going through my comics that I had. I have like 4 long boxes, and I went through them, and I was going through like Nightfall again, and I was reading all this stuff. And then I had come across your name, but then I never really made anything of it. One of my favorite comics actually was like Predator versus Batman, or what is it? Predator Batman?
Yeah,
the part 3. I love that. So I didn't know you did that. I didn't know. And it wasn't until Unauthorized TV came along, and I saw you on there, because at the time I was looking for more information about the history of comics and stuff. And so when you were on there, then I started following you. Then I started listening and waiting for all the videos to kind of pop up and everything. And it's like similar to Graham. It's the same thing. Like I wasn't familiar that he was a writer. I knew he was an artist. I followed in the 90s or something. And so, yeah, anyways, so there's something about this, like cranking out like thing. So now that I found your stuff, you kind of like one thing after another. And I don't know the question. I don't really have a question with that, but are you, I mean, like, is that what you've been also like, is that something that you have been, is there something about the people who kind of like, when they're set on a schedule, they got to get it done. They crank out there's some magic to that. Like there's something like, I don't know, the stuff that comes out, the stuff that you got to put in, you got to write this, you got to get it done, and you got to make it interesting. You want people to, I don't know. So I guess it's like, are there other writers that you've been attracted to like that? Like some writers that you like that do the same thing that kind of got you to, I don't know, what the type of work that you're doing now, I guess. I don't know, something like that.
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned Woody Allen. I mean, Woody Allen's a guy he's always in the process of making a movie. Clint Eastwood, apparently this latest movie is his last movie, but that's another guy constantly in that process of coming up with new projects. And when I first started, writing, I was writing children's books, and I didn't like it. I wanted to write comics, but I learned doing children's books you can never get comfortable as a this, you can't get comfortable as a freelancer. Once you quit your day job, it's all up to you now. And so you can't think a week ahead or a month ahead. You got to be thinking, where am I going to be next year? So while you're working, you're still looking for work, and so I just sort of learned that work ethic of just have stuff lined up, have everything lined up. And then when you get an opportunity, you just leap on it. And if I was given a new monthly to write, I just wrote it until I was months and months ahead of the pencil. And then then I go back to what the other book I was doing and just write it, and just stay ahead of schedule. So I just got used to that speed of working, and that, I really don't take vacations or anything like that. I mean, the best example I can think of is somebody asked Charles Schultz once, because Charles Schultz was a freaking billionaire, and they asked him, why don't you take more vacations and do this and do that and do this other? And he said, I worked so long to do what I'm doing now, drawing this comic strip. Why would I want to do anything else? And so that's just what he did. That was his whole life, was wrapped up in drawing peanuts, writing and drawing peanuts. And to me, it's the same thing. It's like I'm in this space You know, and I got to think like Clint Eastwood, Woody Allen, they got to feel the same way. Like, I'm in this space. I got this opportunity. I don't dare waste it.
Yeah. Like, oh, it's a very, yeah, it's like, I'm in this space. I don't want to waste it. Yeah.
Yeah. Because
No,
if you go idle for a while, they just kind of forget who you are, or the things stop coming in. You know, I mean, it's like even today, people will go, you know, where have you been? Because I'm not working on Batman, you know, so they don't know I've been working on all this other stuff.
right.
You know, because, you know, so much of the core fandom of comics, it's all about Marvel and DC, and it's not about anything else. You know, and they can't see that there's other work, and that's true of creators in our business too. They can't see that there's something outside of mainstream comics. I mean, my good buddy Sergio Cariello, he's been drawing the Action Bible. He's been drawing faith-based comics now for a couple of decades, and he's a global best-selling author. He might be the best-selling comic guy in comics, but you know, no one knows who he is. You know, outside of people who read it.
Right. Yeah, it's like, so where it's like I had never sort of it's okay, so like my dad, you know, he was it was hard for him to like to kind of, I don't know, it's like he didn't have like a full-time job, but he always had work. So he was always seeking out stuff. And I don't know why, like early on, like, I guess, I don't know, is it like the chosen profession I had that I was really trying to hone it together. I could go and find work, but I was like, but I'm not really like offering much. Like, I don't really have kind of in my head or in my talent or my skill isn't like this just yet. So I kind of always remember that he was always kind of like seeking work. He always had work. He was always doing that, but I hadn't learned. I just like what you're saying. It's like, once I'm in this wheel, once I'm in this thing, sorry, my kids are like, I don't know if you can hear the screaming or something. Yeah. They're like right there. The room's right there. And like, they just got out of their naps, and yeah. Anyways. Yeah. See, there's life in this house. There's life in this house.
That's great.
Yeah. So, they're 2 and 4. They just turned one turned 2, and the other one just turned 4 the other day.
Oh my God!
Yeah, so
that's
they're
a house full of kids. The 2-year-old, 4-year-old is a house full of kids.
Yeah, and now everyone's like, there was one of our friends just had a baby, and then now we're thinking about the third. You know, we're gonna, Lord willing, you know, try end of the year, something like that. So, anyways, where was I going with that question?
So you learned your work ethic from your dad, basically.
Yes. Yeah. So it was like, but I didn't see, like, I was talking about this with Graham back at the other podcast, where I was like, I had never been on a schedule. I never really put myself on a schedule. So when you were talking about in your videos, like the calendar, like this is your best friend, like, you know, stick to this thing. And like, I never had really done comics on a schedule. It's always been indie stuff. It's always been like trying to just do it when I can. And I never really figured out how much I could do a week. And so I'm still like, I was still figuring that out. Now I figured it out. Now I know what I could do. And my wife was helping me with that in the last 6 months or so. So I've really figured out what I could do. And I've been doing this since 2017. So yeah. So anyways, I just, not squandering the position that you're in. That's like, I mean, again, that is awesome. I mean, like, again, like, I didn't know that. I didn't learn that. I didn't understand that. Like, when you're in this space, don't squander it. I look back at another position that I had. I did kind of squander it. I was like, I want to get out of this. And like, if I stayed there, this could have happened, whatever. But like, I just never thought about that. That's just that's very, very helpful. Like, for a lot of people, it's like, you're in this, don't squander it. Do what you can. Yeah. So.
Well, my dad was much the same way. I mean, he worked for Burroughs, the computer corporation, but on weekends he would do roofing. He did gunsmithing in his, workshop in the basement. I mean, he was always working, working. For a period when I was a kid, he had 2 full-time jobs. He was working at Burroughs and then going at night and working at a helicopter. And to me, your dad is your role model for what a man's supposed to do. And so, I want to go into this, goofy career of comics, with no assurance I'm ever going to make it or anything's ever going to happen. But I'm like, leaving a burning ship every time I get a job. It's like, what else can I do here? I would get an assignment writing a children's book, and I would pester the editor. What about this project? Did you ever think about this? Did you ever think about this? And apparently I was unusual, because most people would just take the assignment, go home and do it. But I would want to go in and get the assignment and spend time talking to them. And if I couldn't get anywhere with them, I would go down to the sales department. Hey, do you think you could sell a book about this? Because I just wanted to keep writing. I wanted to keep, there's that point where you got to look across the dinner table and meet your family in the eyes. And say,
I know. Yeah.
What I'm doing isn't a waste of time. I'm actually making money.
Right. And it's like, it's like the mix. I don't know. So I like what you said. Like, I mean, when I was working like a full-time job, I was working at Daily Wire. Now they had me just do illustrations. Like I was working on the PragerU videos, and then I was doing illustrations for another, the other YouTube channel that they had, whatever. So we were doing illustrations for them, and I wanted to expand. So I was always doing things. I was sitting there drawing. When I was done, I'd draw something else, and I'd show them and I'd pitch them different things. If it was a comic, if it was a political cartoon, shirt designs, I was trying to expand on what they were doing, because I was doing also illustrations for Another Kingdom for Andrew Klavan's book. And so if they were doing that, I'm like, okay, what do you want to do here? Let's anyways, I was really, really trying to grow there. But I guess that's another thing we could talk about with conservatives and art is just, I don't know. Right? It's like, that's a whole other podcast. That's a whole other thing where like, they just don't get it. They don't understand it. And I'm here like trying to I want to make things look cool. I want to make things look good. I want to keep it simple, whatever. And I don't know. It's just like, they need art. They need stuff for the culture. And it's just like, I guess it's like the other thing. Like, it's like, why is it that, so conservatives, they look at like, okay, I know that they want to look at it as like a product, or they look at it as like, is it going to work? Is it going to make me money? Does it make sense? Like, we need to get more like kind of info on this before we greenlight it. We go forward with it. I get that. But it seems like all the creativity, like then you see in liberal or the left circles, like it's more like they're willing to take a chance. They're willing for something to bomb. And like, I mean, I've seen movies, like huge movies and like star-studded cast, and like the movie's a complete flop,
Right.
but they're willing to do it, right? Because of, well, maybe the money wasn't theirs and it was government money. Maybe it was like, I don't know, because they needed to push out an agenda, all that kind of stuff. But it's just like conservatives like do not want to let go of their money, and they're to just take a chance. Like there's no risks. There's no like, I don't know. So I don't know what your thoughts were on that.
I mean, generally, I've done things for conservative outfits, and generally they look at it. Will this move the political needle? Will this get our point across and everything else? And my thing is like, why don't we just make a really good product that people will enjoy, and have lasting effect? I mean, when I did Clinton Cash, adapting Peter Schweitzer's book, they diddled around forever. They ate up all this time from our schedule. We couldn't get started because they were back and forth with this and that and everything else. And we kept trying to tell them, you can't do a comic book overnight. And their deadline was the next election season. And we're like, well, you're not going to get anybody to vote because of this graphic novel. The Clintons were corrupt. We all know that. Let's make a lasting piece of, fun, subversive comic, material that will be a perennial seller.
Right.
People will always go back. And Schweitzer himself said that the comic made the book much clearer than he did. It was a better demonstration of what he was trying to get across than what.
Yeah. Yeah.
but the thing is, they just don't think of it in the right way. And then, of course, once the political season was done, they were finished with the book. It was like we had written a campaign brochure. And it's like, that's not what it should be. And that's why there's no lasting effect on the culture. When the left makes Handmaid's Tale, they're not thinking about the next election. They're thinking that this is an evergreen product that people will go to again and again and again. And, be something that will ongoing convert people to their cause.
Right.
Whereas conservatives, they just don't get it. And they don't get that, it takes time, it takes money. I mean, Clinton Cash was extraordinarily successful. And I thought, well, now we're going to do every one of Schweitzer's books, which he wanted us to do them.
Yeah.
And they always talk about us doing another one, but they never do it. It's like, well, why don't we do all of them? They all lend themselves to the comic medium. And we could do this over. We got to have a bookshelf of these darn things. And they don't.
Right.
It's like Christian publishing. I mean, Christian publishers, I have my problems with them too, but at least they understand that if you make an entertainment that's just openly proselytizing, you're not going to win anybody over. But if you make a really good entertainment that in its undercurrent has the message you want to put forth, then it'll be successful. Because people won't even realize they're being testified to.
Yeah, I never, like it's a lot of Christian books, or it's like I read the my son loves the Berenstain Bears, and those books are the most formulaic, like just start out the same, end the same, whatever. But they do bring up some interesting things that he remembers, and that's good. It's like that's why we continue reading them, and they bring up some really good things. Like, do you have the gimme gimmies? It's like, that's a new phrase I'm using now. You know what I mean? Like that book brought up because he understands it. It kind of like solidified the idea, which is fine. Then I read like Karl Barks, the Donald Duck series. I'm like, oh, like children's stories can be very fun and entertaining, and you could have a very kind of high adventure, deep, twisting story that's like, that a kid, because you were talking about that when you were, you did like a little kind of mini doc about Karl Barks way back a few years ago. And that's what got me to get those books. And I read them, and he can't, I'll read them to him. We've had two of them, and I keep rereading them and going over that. He likes to read those. Yeah. And he keeps on. He stays on. I read them. And these are like 10 panel pages. Like these are long stories, and he'll sit there the entire time. I'm going through it. I'm making the voices. I'm doing the whatever. And he's just staying with me, basically. He's not getting bored or anything.
Well, Barks understood that, you get into children's books, you learn very quickly. Kids are the toughest audience in the world. Mm-hmm. They don't have a short attention span. They just don't have any patience for being bored. But they have a long attention span if you can get them interested and fascinate them. And then Barks knew that. The stories are so amazingly constructed that if you took that same plot structure from so many of those Uncle Scrooge things and played it straight as an Indiana Jones movie, it would be just as awesome. And it's because he didn't look down at kids. He knew they were a tough crowd.
So here, I want to show you this real quick. So you see this?
Yeah.
Okay. This is Matt Walsh's book, the Johnny the Walrus book.
Right.
And this was, I got a chance to work on this. I wanted to work. They said that they wanted to do a children's book, and I'm like, great. And here you go. I'm going to draw this, and I cranked it out, and they said my art was too good. It was too good. They said that I need to make it bad. Like I need to, but I don't think that, because they said that, but I think they meant like just pull it way back. Like they don't know how to speak art. Right. They don't know what they're like. They don't know what it is. And I just sort of like, okay, I'll do something, whatever.
Right.
And then they said, okay, we're not going to do it. And then they wanted this cranked out like real fast, like 2 weeks. And they got somebody there to do it. And then it's like, I mean, like with this book here, like if I was thinking about it at the time, because I was only a contractor at the time, like I quit them and then I was a contractor, and I could have worked on this and like actually got a percentage or something if I didn't. Anyways, it's like a big like where I'm like, I should have. Anyways, the point is that they wanted it real bad, so they got somebody. They just needed a book out. They needed they have the words. They needed some pictures. They needed it cranked out. They needed it bad, but they meant that they needed the art being pulled back, like way back. Just make it simple, because I don't know. There's like all this other thing too with like children's books and, you know, and the art and all that kind of stuff, the way the publishers are thinking about it. And they don't want a specific, I don't know. They don't want it to look good. Like I just said, you know what I mean?
That didn't used to be the way. I mean, they understood, you know, there's a certain elegance to children's illustrations, you know, even a level of sophistication.
So I was going to say, this is how far I was going.
Wow.
So this is Matt Walsh. Like I was kind of like trying to be cartoony, very over exaggerated stuff.
Right.
And I drew this for them. And I was drawing this comic book for them. And I was trying to be very, very like this. I was going to make a 3-page pitch about why Matt Walsh's show, the ratings are never changing or something, or why is his show not better than Shapiro's? Like, why is it? Or I don't know. It was like, but I was trying to be very like, I was trying to joke on Shapiro and Walsh while I was there, and I was going to joke on them about it. And it was going to be lighthearted. I don't know, whatever. I wasn't going to be like scathing about it. Right. But this is how I drew it. This is how I drew the book, right? Essentially. And it's not, I don't know. It's not super detailed. I kind of left a lot out, and I don't know. This is where I was going, and I needed to pull.
But like you said, you know, they look at children's book art and they just see bad art, and they think that's the way children's books should look. And you know, no, it's not. That's like a recent development. Books need to look awful. I mean, I remember working on, you know, stuff, you know, Muppet stuff, things like that, and it's like, that's some amazing illustrators doing that stuff. I mean, they're doing astounding stuff in books that were selling literally in the millions. I mean, a little golden book with Grover, gorgeous artwork, absolutely beautiful stuff. Now, it was simple because it had to be. It's Muppets, for gosh sakes. But they always think, I mean, I can't tell you how many editors I've talked to and said, we're going to do a book aimed at kids, and we're going to simplify everything. Mm-hmm. And I said, well, you know, when I was a kid, I was looking at Steve Ditko and Jack Kirby and Wally Wood. They weren't simplifying anything. I was drawn to that.
Right.
And it was complex and sophisticated and everything else. But, you know, I dug it. I mean, why? I didn't need things simplified for me. You know,
right.
You know, I wasn't reading Sad Sack comics. I was reading Spider-Man, Thunder Agents, Batman, and stuff like that.
Right.
And, you know, that's the problem. They want to pander. And, you know, kids can smell pandering a mile away.
It's like with the songs that I hear, like, it's like they have to be so, I mean, dumbed down. And I mean, look, it's, you know, if any parents are, you know, they have that like there's a children's channel, like, you know, on Pandora or Spotify, and you just want it to play. I mean, like they so like just the level of like sophistication, the weirdness, the all that stuff, like how goofy or how like over the top, like dumb, like it is for kids. And like, no wonder, like things are so like, it's like the way that it's like they cater to, again, like this ADD or this, you know, where you need to get their attention. You need to get their attention. It's like the way the songs are made. And then it's like the dumbing down. It's like the way the song comes off. And so I just, it's like a rule in my house. Again, I sound very pretentious. I sound very, you know, I don't, you know, if anybody's listening to that, you know, again, I'm not like looking down on you. I just really like I'm trying to be as intentional as I can to watch what my kids are listening to and what they're watching. And like, I think a lot of parents are doing that nowadays. I think parenting is hard. We get tired easily. We get irritable. We get hungry. You know, I don't know. So it's like sometimes you just want to put the phone in front of them, or you want to put the screen or something like that, or you want to put something on constantly so they can, you know, you just have a moment. And so I'm trying to be very like intentional about what they watch and what they see and so I read everything, I watch everything. So I've done this a long time. I've been listening to talk radio, or conservative talk radio, for a very long time, and so I've been very noticing a lot of things, like what to watch and what not to, what he's allowed to, what isn't. So a lot of the things that he's watching as he's been growing up has been things that like I saw, like, okay, I want you to watch this. This is what we're gonna do here and here. So you hear it in the songs, you hear it in you see it in the books, and so I've collected like a lot of things where he doesn't, and I know a lot of books, and so when I seek them out, I find them, and I that's what he's reading. So we kind of really try to stay away from the bad art. I guess, I don't know.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's like anything else. If you introduce them to the good stuff early on, they recognize the value in it. Whether obviously they're children, they can't articulate, they don't know why they like things, but if you can at least get them I mean, our kids, when they were preschool, we were showing them, the Marx Brothers, Buster Keaton silent movies, and yeah, we're mixing in My Neighbor Totoro and stuff like SpongeBob SquarePants and things like that. But we got them accustomed to, hey, if it's in black and white, it's okay, it's cool, there's something here,
Yeah.
and and they, so now they're like, they're as eclectic as I am, in their taste of things they like, things they'll watch, and things they'll seek out. And I was always proud of the fact that, they didn't watch the dumb stuff, and they didn't listen to the stupid music. My problem with music now, and it's everything from pop to country, is the songs don't go anywhere. I mean, when I was a kid, when I was younger, the song went somewhere. It was making a point. Even if it was as simple as "I can't get no satisfaction," it didn't just stop there. It moved on, right? And these days they start with a hook and end with the same hook. It's like it didn't go anywhere. And I see that in stories too. It's like, why did I watch it? Why did I listen
this is a good good segue into this, where like you commented, it was sort of like I heard you talking, and I'm trying to remember like how you said it, but I just remember it like this, where you just sort of offhandedly mentioned the movie Nobody, and you said you want that, you wish that movie could just make up its mind.
Yeah,
it was something like that. Yeah. And I was watching that with like a friend and like two friends, and we were watching it. And when like my wife knows this, when a movie's bad, I start talking and making fun of it. And during the film, I'm not watching it. Like I kind of lose my attention. It loses my attention. So I start just start saying things. I start talking, and it's like, so anyway, so that's what happened. And I didn't continue watching the movie. And then when you said that, it all just sort of made sense.
Yeah.
So that kind of like that thing where movies don't know what they want to be nowadays. Like I was watching, it was like a movie like the movie Renfield, the Nicolas Cage movie.
Yeah.
That movie, though there was some pretty decent stuff in it.
Right.
I was like, what is this? Is this a serious film? Is this a comedy? Because you see whatever Aquafina, like she was actually like decent in the film and kind of funny, but she was like, is this real? Like, is this a real? It can't make up its mind like that. Now I could constantly see movies. I'm like, are they a movie? Is this based in reality, or is this like suddenly we're going to see it's like the DOA film, the one I just showed you with Takashi Miike. It's like just suddenly be zany, and it's,
right.
But at least,
right.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I got to put that down to the way they make movies now, which is, a bunch of nitwit producers, who they don't know anything about movies. They don't even particularly like movies. They just think they know what audiences want. And that's why, things like that happen. You're watching a movie and it begins well because truthfully, when they go to greenlight a movie, they read the beginning of the screenplay and the end, and they have no idea what happens in the middle. And if they like the beginning, they'll greenlight it. And so many movies begin well, and then just everything goes off the tracks. And also the lack of earnestness. Earnestness is a very important thing to me. And
Mm-hmm.
the best illustration I can think of is one that Graham Nolan brought up. In the first Doctor Strange movie, you get to see him for the first time in the cloak of levitation. And it's this great moment where he's standing in front of a mirror wearing this, this awesome piece of clothing, right?
Uh-huh.
And then, and if you know Doctor Strange, you know how awesome it is, right? And this is a great moment. And it's this great dramatic moment, but they can't leave it alone. They have the collar of it slap him in the face. For a cheap laugh, and it takes everything away from the scene that it should have had, and left us with this marvelous scene. But it's like they can't resist. It's like if you watch old movies, what I like about old movies is you'll have these great dialogue sequences in which the important part of the dialogue is never said, right? Everything is implied, and you'll have them say things. And the audience knows what they were going to say next, but they don't say it. And you know why? Because the audience knows what they were going to say. There's no need to put it on film. Today, they just put it all out there.
I know. They can't shut up.
Right.
They have to, like, it was like, I don't know if you saw Encanto. There was so much there was so much, like, words in the songs. There was so much words in the dialogue. I don't know. Anyways, maybe it's not the best example. But I was like, I just think about that. Like, yeah, no, you're right. Wow. Yeah.
I mean, one of those marvelous movies ever made from a standpoint of genre, lowbrow, just pure entertainment is Taking Your Pelham 1, 2, 3. It is a seamlessly constructed thriller, and it has everything. It has laugh out loud moments. It has horrifying.
You mean the first one, the old,
first,
okay,
forget the second one.
Yeah.
The first one. The second one, they give the lead guy what they can't resist. They give him a tragic background.
Oh.
In the original with Walter Matthau and Robert Shaw, we don't know anybody's background. We meet them for the first time. We see them at work. We don't know anything about them, and we learn about them by what they do, not by what they say,
right?
Not by what anybody says about them, but by what they do. And it leads from one marvelous scene, one marvelous performance after another, and it comes to a suspenseful, edge of your seat, and it has one of the best endings ever in a movie. And not a word is spoken. It's just the look on Walter Matthau's face when that film closes. It just makes you feel like I just watched a movie, real movie, and I had the full experience. And they just don't know how to do that anymore. And it's because I'm not blaming filmmakers. Also, some of them are morons too. You got your Zack Snyders out there who can't seem to find his way out of a room without 16 explosions. But it's producers who say, no, you can't do. No, the audience won't like that. We have to dumb it down. Same thing with the children's books. I had a producer once tell me I was doing a adaptation on a movie treatment. I was adapting it into a graphic novel, and I told him, I said, you know what would make this movie great? I mean, now it's an Ashley Judd movie. It's a piece of crap right now. I said, what would make it great is if it had a downer ending, if the heroes in the movie failed in their mission. And he said, no money making movie has ever had a downer ending.
Right. Yeah.
And I'm spinning, my head's spinning. With,
Casablanca,
Casablanca, Chinatown, King Kong, the list goes on and on and on and on. All the great movies had downer endings.
Yeah.
Easy Rider, although I thought Easy Rider was funny.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like this new humor that I still do where Joss Whedon stuff, like his early stuff, but he kind of is the problem, like it too, where like he did it right. Like I remember watching like Firefly. I remember that first episode, and then the villain was like on his knees, they got him, they got the villain, they stopped him, and the villain goes, I'm gonna track you down, and I'm gonna find you, and I'm gonna kill you, and he's just threatening. The music is going up, and then you see the lead, I forget his name, but he kicks him into the turbine and kills him.
Right.
And then it's like, that's over. Wait a
Yeah.
minute, you just destroyed like all this plot, this new plot that could have been whatever. Why did you do that? Like that's I'm just hearing like bad writers or producers like telling him that, why'd you do that? You just like ruined. No, we're gonna put our heads together. We're gonna try to come up with a new plot. So I mean, like Joss Whedon does stuff like that, like really interesting, like funny things like that. But man, oh man, have they taken it with all the Marvel movies and they just they ruin every single, like they ruined Thor, like the first Thor compared to the Thor 3, like Ragnarok.
Yeah.
And I know people like the Ragnarok one, but I couldn't stand the intro to that. When I heard Thor talking, he goes, it's like, I'm stuck in here and but don't, I know what you're thinking. Oh no, why is Thor in this da-da-da-da? And I'm like, why is he talking like that? Like, it's totally different than what he was in the first film. They could have just kept it like that, where he's just tough, he's stoic, he's just like he's a hero. I mean, like he's strong. And anyways. And they just anyways. But the humor that I keep seeing played out, either because I don't watch them, I either hear it in clips or something. Yeah. These scenes that are talked about, and the humor in them, just poo-pooing every single serious scene. Anybody wanting to be serious, anybody that's taking things seriously, you can't take anything seriously anymore. Like the humor is to just take a serious scene and just like do a fart noise or something, or take it away from them. But you're taking it away from the audience, like getting into it, like actually believing this or something. I don't know if you have any comments on that. I mean, like, does that like the Joss Whedon problem? Like Joss Whedon seems to be he was like he was doing something well, the Joss Whedon thing, and then everybody just sort of took what he did from Avengers and then just ruined every other, like the humor in every single other film. They just did it wrong or something like that.
Well, the problem is they replace humor with comedy.
Yeah,
and
right.
Two different things. I mean, humor grows out of the situation. Some of the funniest scenes in film have no dialogue.
Mm-hmm.
Some of the funniest scenes in film are because of running gags, because of repetition. Some of them are based on anticipation. Mm-hmm. There's all kinds of ways to put humor, but comedy is just you're writing jokes. You're just writing jokes, and that that may work right now. Well, apparently with the box office, it's working less and less. But over time, it's not. You're not creating a lasting product if it's just joke.
Mm-hmm.
It's got to grow out of the story, because some of the I mean, Jaws is a really funny movie.
Yeah,
there's no comedy in it. It's all grows out of the characters' reactions. They're all playing it perfectly straight, and we're laughing at the predicaments they're in. We're laughing at the irony of what they're saying. They're saying very serious things that are in juxtaposition or humorous. We're going to their boat. That totally grows out of that character's personality.
Right.
But when I saw it in theaters, guys, this huge laugh, which was intentional, but it never once takes away from the seriousness of the situation. In fact, Roy Scheider is saying what you were thinking.
Yeah.
Why aren't they in a bigger boat? So and the same with the first Star Wars and Empire Strikes Back as well. There's humor, and then we get to Return of the Jedi, and it's replaced with comedy.
Yeah. That's why I've never liked the third film. I've never really sat there and enjoyed it. Because humor is a very important thing to me. Like and it has to be done right. And I've always noticed that, and I think I learned a lot of that from the Woody Allen films. The humor, the timing, and he even like I remember just reading about it where he learned because if you watch like Bananas, compared it to Love and Death, compare it to Sleeper, they're like totally different films, because he started realizing that it's like in the editing, it's the timing, it's not this, it's got to come out of the story, it's got to be whatever. Because even though Bananas has like I'll still remember lines from there that are amazing, but it's not lasting and memorable as Sleeper is, as Love and Death, even though he does have the Bob Hope thing where he has like the one-liner thing all the time. Right. But those are like, my wife can sit there and watch it. Like, it's not just like, okay, like it's, when are we going to get on with the story kind of thing? that's anyways, but yeah, so that's
I mean, he realized he needed a through story,
Yeah.
by the time he gets to Love and Death and Sleeper.
Yeah.
He was just doing a series of vignettes
Mhm.
movies prior to that. I mean, but Bananas has a joke that was so funny at the time, and it's not funny anymore. And it's not for politically incorrect reasons. When he's applying for that job, and they ask him if he can operate a computer, and he says, "My aunt owns one." It's hysterically funny at the time because you couldn't imagine someone owning a computer.
Yeah, I remember it was like he's like a far left liberal intellectual type of thing, but he always makes fun of them, but in a way where like he's just exposing their life all the time. So that was like when he did that early on in Bananas, where he was like, I guess this he met with this girl, and she's saying things like, oh, you're like a New York, liberal feminist, blah, 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 and that you don't like men. And he's like listing it all off. She's like, oh, no, it's like not all feminists believe in castration. And then he goes, ooh, don't say that word. I'm going to be walking around like this all day, like, ooh. And he's like holding himself, and he's like, just, I'm like, just things like, yes, that was funny. Like that's good. But like, it doesn't, I've never been able to go back and watch it and rewatch it like I have Sleeper and Love and Death. And so there is this thing with humor that you just, that again, just, they're missing out. They're just missing out because, and no one's, I don't know. It's like they're all beholden to, they're trying to get that film, or they're trying to get somewhere in Hollywood. They're trying to find their way in, and they're trying to do whatever they can to appease some executive producer, some whatever's in vogue ideologically, politically, that kind of thing. And that's what it seems to be. Even if you're Christian, it's like you're staying in there. You're trying to get to that point where you can just do whatever you want, but it never happens. It never does. It never. I don't think I've ever heard about that ever happening with anybody who's like they're able to say and do whatever they want and make whatever they want. But you can always go back just, a few decades ago. Yeah, they were able to do that. And
I guess it was like 12 years ago, I met with an agent, and I never met him before. And his first words to me were, even Martin Scorsese doesn't make Martin Scorsese movies anymore. He said, it's a whole different Hollywood. To explain to me that, 99% of the entertainment is just facile nonsense.
Yeah.
It only got worse after that.
So Devil Flyer, he's in the chat. What's up? Hey, Storm. Hope the storm didn't get you. No, it did not get me. Over here in Arkansas, there was just a huge.
I saw that.
Like all this stuff happening with, we were under tornado watch, all this different stuff, but it went right by us. Oh, you had damage. Oh boy. All right. Well, I hope everything's okay.
Wow.
I got to get on his show again. But what is it? Let's see. Well, let's talk about, what I'm always like, I just thought it was always an awesome story. So like, this is okay. So like the history of My Sister Suprema. So like, how, like when you tell me that you had this sitting there for so long, like just you tell the story and then
I just came up with this idea for a superhero parody that was at its heart a sibling rivalry. This little boy dreams of being a superhero, finds a experiment on a dodgy website, does it, accidentally turns his older sister into a superhero. And of course, she has no interest in being a superhero. And that's where it started. And I just, you create stuff and it's like, yeah, it's pretty good, or I'll push this forward or anything else. But My Sister Suprema, it was like, this is lightning in a bottle. I mean, I know I've got something here. I know this is different. This writes itself. This is, I told it to my wife and she got, into it, which, she doesn't usually on comic projects. Has no interest. And so I presented it to different artists. I presented it to different places, with sample art done. I was just never happy with any of it. It never looked like what I wanted it to look like. And then, you know, basically, I talked to an animation studio for a long time about it, and just nothing ever went anywhere. We were in talks with, oh boy, I forget, Sony, about doing a series of web cartoons, and just nothing clicked. I wasn't happy with any of it.
Yeah, I read those. Those were like, that was pretty awesome. I was getting a lot of ideas, a lot of like this and that with it, and yeah. Sorry.
And then, you know, the Webtoons thing came up. I thought, well, this is a venue if I can find the right artist. And you know, Vox suggested you. He did a few samples, and I just fell in love with him right from the beginning. I was like, yeah, this guy gets it.
Cool.
And then you took it way beyond. I mean, you know, you invested yourself in it as much as I was invested in it, and really took it. I mean, I was writing stuff. Yeah. Oh, this scene will be funny. And then you draw it, and it's like, oh my God, it's not funny. It's hysterical, man. Because you just seem to understand, you know, what I was going for. And to not have it look like, you know, Bigfoot humor stuff that looks like a real superhero comic, but, you know, you sort of put a manga spin on it. You sort of put your own spin on it, and just really brought these characters to life.
Yeah, let's see. It's going to go and show... see here.
Yeah, because when I was dealing with the animation studio, they had all these things like they wanted Randy to be in a wheelchair. I'm like,
yeah,
what?
Yeah,
that's just bad. You know,
yeah,
that doesn't work for the humor, because I need him to be envious of the sister and everything else. If he's in a wheelchair, that's horrible.
I know, it's just sad. It's just like yeah,
it's like, you know, oh, he wants to be a superhero. Well, why wouldn't you wish that he just walk? You know, it's just crazy.
Yeah, I remember that intro you gave me to the story.
Yeah.
And I was like, huh, each one of these panels that you gave me, like, I mean, because again, it's formatted for Arktoons, so it was just going to be like Webtoons, scrolling comic for people don't know. And so I had to do, and it gave me this chance to really kind of make it into a storyboard for a movie.
Right.
That's how I kind of always approach the comics. I'm into movies. I want to, I'm heavily into anime and cartooning at the time too. And I really wanted this to I just wanted to go all out. So that first, you know, it's like, I'm Randy, you know, it's like, my name is Randy Diaz. And you said, start off with like, you know, he's punching a bad guy, you know, right. And I'm just like, and I remember I was watching Kill la Kill from Studio Trigger, and I was just like, all the fight scenes in there were like insane, and I was like, I got to do something. I got to like just start it off with this. And this was before you were talking about like how a comic is like, because like people were, you know, like I when I was watching your videos, I was listening to you, listening to Graham, listening to people how to really start a comic book, how to really get it off the ground. And you were talking about how like you want to get people right into the story as soon as possible, beginning, middle, end, right on a page, and just like get them right into it, suck them in, and like just like get it going, get the story going, because you don't want them to get bored, and you don't. And I was like, I was feeling the same way, but this was before I heard kind of you were going really in depth in that kind of stuff, and I was like, yeah, I want people to just be like, boom, like right when it starts, like,
right.
And this was it. It was just, so this is a different panel from what I did in the beginning. Like it's similar, but I was like, I had to make it for a comic. So I had to I redrew everything, and I put the sound effects. And after I watched your video about the sound, like about lettering, I've been really trying my best to do it justice, like to really go in there with the sound effects and hand drawing it, and I'm spending way too much time on it. You know what I mean? Like I'm spending way too much time. And so I'm telling you, every panel you gave me was supposed to be, I'm sure that I don't know what you expected. Like you were like, okay, this is going to be like one little square, and this is going to be one little square. I made full on splash pages for like each panel you gave me. and this was supposed to be scrolling down, like you start up here and then you scroll down to like the next splash page, you know what I mean? Like this insane thing. And so I just kept. Then I these were all wide angle panels, and I kept it like like that. So. And
well, I mean, when you started working on this, you sort of informed me of how this should be paced. I changed like my approach to it, and like you said, it's paced more like a movie than a comic. And there's a lot more business going on than in a usual comic, because you were doing things, you were adding to it, and I'm like, oh, that's cool. That is cool. That's like a little something going on. Where I had like one panel and you'd break it into three and have all these different things going on. I was like, well, let's have more of that. Let's have more this background business and things going on aside from the action. And it's just comics collaboration is a marriage, and I think we've got a successful one going.
Yeah, and you would. This was at the time too that I was just like I was just figuring out my coloring. Like I was just figuring out how I wanted it to look. And so it all came at a really good time. So like all of these things, the cinematic look, like I was very influenced by. I didn't grab the. Actually, let me just have that ready over here so I can show you what really helped me. Let's see, Webtoon. Let's see here, and then we'll look at that afterwards. And he's so Jason Brubaker was he's a DreamWorks. He was a DreamWorks animator, and he worked on Remind and Sithra and Phobos and all these different things. And he did some things I really liked. And I wanted to bring that because I never saw it in any comics. I don't see anybody doing this. I don't see anybody doing it. I just can't think of it. I hadn't been really in comics enough to really see and to see what everybody was doing. Usually you see it on the cover, but you don't see it in the interiors. So right. I spent a little bit more time just like really like coloring these things, because every panel is like, I'm doing all these lighting effects and stuff, and I'm really, really, really going into it as I go along. And just like this, I'm trying to get all this going. Wish I could zoom better with.
Well, the thing is, I wanted this comic aimed for young audiences, but like I said earlier, I didn't want to pander.
Right.
And this does not look like a children's comic book.
No.
I love that. And yet the kids who have read it love it.
Right.
Because there's sophisticated, it's complex, it's engaging, it's not dumbed down for them.
Yeah. And
I really like that.
Yeah, and that's what I love about it too. That's why I wanted to do it. I didn't want to do just anything, right? It's like right. you gave me something, and I'm like, yes, like this is exactly like this is. It seems like this is like a lot of fun. It was like the ideas were already coming out. I'm like, this is where I can go, and I can kind of mix in my Disney-esque anime style kind of cartoon, because I pulled back my style like a lot for this thing, and I never really did cartooning. So this has all been a learning experience. Right. So if you notice like Cecilia's face in this right. is different from as I went along. So right. I kind of, it was supposed to be more of like a less cartoony Ariel, like from The Little Mermaid or whatever. Right. And that's what sort of like I was kind of going that direction. I was kind of like, I thought about Ariel. I liked the way she looked more like her kid her age. Like she's like 16 or 15 or whatever. Right. Ariel looked more like a kid than, let's say, Sleeping Beauty or Belle or you know what I mean? All the other. Right. So I was like, I stuck with Ariel, and I kind of did this, and I was like, it was like a more realistic looking, so the eyes aren't as big. And then, let's see here. Then as you get further down the line here, let's see, where is it? So this is where I right here. This is where I solidified it. Yeah. So the way she looks here, it never changes. Right. She looks like this throughout the entire series now from now on. Like I kind of like kept with the big eyes, and that's how it looked. Now, I was going to ask you this too about the costume. Now, because you said just like it had to be something out of her closet. Right. And is this sort of like if I went like and I did some sort of elaborate thing, I don't know, would you have said, no, redraw it, Anthony? I don't know. I guess.
Yeah, I mean, if she came out looking like, you know, she belonged on the cover of an Image comic, oh, no, that doesn't look right. You know,
right.
She had this outfit with like, some kind of extraneous, piping or pointless pouches and things, something that no one would ever wear. You know, you couldn't buy off the rack. I would have said no. I mean, you did such a great job of assembling all those different various costumes from things that might be in a girl's closet.
Got it.
You know, and this basically, leotard exercise yoga suit or whatever. It is perfect.
Right. Okay. I just was like, because I was like trying to make this down to earth. Is that the way to put it? Like, it's got to be as realistic as possible. Like at least that. And I think I said, as the comic goes on, we can give her a more formal costume. We can always change. I'm a big fan of having the characters in an evolving costume. Yeah, and I have ideas here and there that I kind of dabbled with or whatever, but we'll see how it goes along, how that kind of transitions into that. Yeah, everybody hit that like button. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't subscribed yet. I need to get those subscribers up. Just trying to get this YouTube channel off the ground. I'm going to have some more guests. Haven't really, I have about 3 people that could pop on next week. I just haven't got a time or a place yet, so do that. Let's see. M Sparks, it says, my 9-year-old read through My Sister Suprema #1 in a single sitting and told me the story afterward. Wow. Love it. Yeah, that's great.
That's what I was going for. That's what we were both going for.
And yep, thank you. Freaka Boogie, hit the like button, y'all. Okay. Yes, hit that like button. Yeah, that's what I keep hearing from with people, is that they do love it, they do enjoy it. Anybody that I've given it to, doesn't matter what age, they've enjoyed the comic. Yeah, they've really liked it. I just love the story. I'm always like, I've told you this before. It's like Toy Story to me, where it just hits every age group, the jokes, the whatever in the story. It just hits like that. It's just like, we got something really good here. So
I'm obviously, I've created a lot of stuff, but very few times it's something that, like, I just you think of stuff, and then after a while you just sort of let it go. Like, maybe I'm wrong, maybe that's not going anywhere. I just could never let this one go. It was to the point where my wife every couple of years would go, did you ever do anything with My Sister Suprema? Did that ever go
really
anywhere? Yeah,
really
remember it and remind me. But I was always actively looking for that partner to bring this thing to life. So.
Well, that's really great. Here, like, and then I'll show people, because people have been asking me about volume 2. We'll just show you here. So exclusively, here's the volume 2, ready to go. Again, formatted. It's all ready to go. We're just waiting on to see the publisher, see what they're going to do. Right? That's that a way to put it,
Yeah.
And so this was just like the day after she finds her powers. I'm sorry, she gets her costume. And they're experimenting. Yeah.
I mean, this was a story where, a lot of times you're like, well, I have to do this, I have to do this, I have to do this. And this is a story where I would have to, like, jettison ideas. There were too many ideas to put them all in. Like, I would have never gotten the story started. I mean, I could have Randy, running her through the paces for the next, 6 books.
Right.
And never get to a story, because there was so much possible material there.
Yeah, that's what. Yeah, like, I was thinking about all that. And this was just really funny. I had a lot of fun with this. So, like, her, she's just like looking, and then he kicks her off the roof, because that's just like, yeah, like, let's just get, you get on with it. Like, let's do this. Like, yeah, let's figure this out. Like, and then, the cape going over her head, and, it's just the little touches that that came to mind.
Yeah. I mean, for everybody watching, the cape over the eyes, that was all Anthony. And that's what I mean, that he made the scene so much funnier than what I had written.
Yeah. And that was, it's like it's a good, it's a good script. And like, that's why I always think it'll come out, you know what I mean? Like, these things will come out of it. And I've done that before where it wasn't a good, with people that I've worked with that don't have a good script, and I suggest things, and oh man, I don't know if because you're a writer,
Yeah.
I don't know, like if someone's done that to you, and it's never been a good experience. Maybe no, I don't think it's ever been a good experience if I have someone wrote me something and I said, look, if you do it like this would be a lot better. I remember like writing out this whole scene for him. I said it because this is what it does. It kind of invites you in like this. You're kind of just getting over the scene. This is very important right here. If we just do this, and but I'm not doing anything like that. I guess I'm just kind of changing the conversation.
No, but the thing is, I mean, that's what a collaboration is. I mean, I welcome every. My philosophy is, you spend a lot more time on the art than I do on the story, and I imagine you're working on this thing, and your mind is, pondering, what you're drawing, why is it this way, what else could have happened, you're thinking about the story probably even more than I ever did, and I appreciate that, and that's true of every comic artist I've worked with. I mean, the only time it bothered me when I get the art, when I see the comic, I don't go back and compare it to the script, what's changed. I don't care if the comic worked, it worked. You should reach a point where you can't even remember who thought of what, because you're just working together. It's one mind. But I had a guy years ago on a Savage Sword of Conan. He the artist just threw in a flashback that I didn't write that introduced an element in the story that never appeared again. And I had to go to the editor and say, he's got to redraw all these pages, or we got to redraw the ending of the story.
Gotcha.
I don't object to him making changes, but he made changes that didn't go anywhere.
Right.
There's no purpose to, except he wanted to draw some Panther people,
Yeah.
If you were suddenly like, to just throw a whaling ship into the story for no reason, like,
right?
Okay, no, Anthony, we can't do that.
Right. No, yeah. See, it's like I'll hold, like, it's like this is what the writers do. Anything to help. It's like I'm like, anything that's going to help carry along the story.
Right.
And then I feel like I'm very good at humor, and I'm very good at drawing humor. I'm really good at pacing and timing with that. So I know I could do that. I know that's one of my strengths. So I'm like, anywhere, and I don't even tell you. I just kind of do the joke. I just kind of do it.
And the thing is, in the world of comics today, first of all, if you work at a comic book company, your editors are useless. I mean, they don't know how to do anything. So you're left to your own devices. And now, you and I, if you're in a crowdfunding thing or anything else, you don't have an editor. You're left to your own devices. Which is a good thing. But it's good to have a partner that says, well, what if we did this? What if this might be a better way to do that, because no one else is going to suggest it.
Right. That's why I was like reading Bakuman, like you're gonna, like, as you go in more into that story. I don't know how far you are now.
I only read the first one. I gotta get going.
So you'll meet their editor, like this guy, this main character that they always kind of go back to, and the guy, like, it's like, I think it's like, it's just, they want you to be good. Like, they want it to be good. They want it to sell. And it's like, it's all like, it's crazy. Like they want original content. They want you to bring something to it, and they're going to help. They'll help bring it out, like bring out what exactly they know how to, they know what you're, right off the bat, they could get your personality, what your strengths are, what are not, and they could pull it right out. And that's what, I don't know if that's the experience of every editor there, but it was, or the experience with it. But in the comic, like that's what it seems like. The editors really are taking their job seriously, and they really, really, really want something great and to come out of this. And so you'll see that as these very ambitious kids are trying to make a name for themselves, but with like sort of like what is that? It's like, they're young, so it's like, oh, the 15-year-old like genius who made the hit manga series. That's what they're trying to go for early on. Right. And because of their rival, Eiji Nazume, I think it's his name, where he's like a genius, like, storyteller, manga creator kind of thing. He just but it's like, it's not so much he's a genius, it's that he just loves manga, and he just the earnestness in this kid. It's like you can't help but just you love that guy, and it's like when he's creating and how much he loves it. But and he keeps having the advantage every single time, and you're just like, it makes them even more like wanting to create something great. Because they just expose, like this guy exposes them with what little this guy does. They exposes how like they don't like how small they are, how not understanding they are like about this whole thing. Like they don't get it. There's so much more they have to learn, and so like again, it's just such a contrast. That's why I love Bakuman so much. Is because it's such a contrast to what you get today, what you see today, what you see being made. And that's why, like, that's the attraction about Japanese, the manga and stuff like that. You know, Japanese comics.
Well, yeah, I mean, they, first of all, they recognize it as a business. And
right. That's the first. Yes.
Secondly, the way that they format it, the way they present the material to the public votes basically. They like it or they don't like it.
Right.
And here, at the major companies, the editors are largely indifferent to the material that comes out, and they're mostly just interested in their own careers. And can they score points in an editorial meeting, or have something they say go viral, rather than the material? Because I mean, it's obvious from the sales that they don't care. They don't do anything to change course. And in this week, we're finding out that Marvel Comics is going to be folded into Marvel Productions.
Whoa!
Pretty much the end of Marvel Comics, and I can't imagine that the same thing won't happen to DC Comics.
Wow. Yeah. It seems to be like like that's a good point about it's a business. They want to make money, so they're not going to go and they're going to just let politics and let ideology or identity politics kind of rule it. And you could kind of see it in a lot of manga, but it's not the majority, Right. You do see the infiltration, you do see the, but it doesn't seem to be like where Vox Day wrote that book, what is it, about businesses and the culture cancer or something like that. Forgot what it was called. And it talks about like this infiltration, right? This cancer that's coming into these businesses, and they, and it doesn't seem to be the dominant thing there. They seem to be like when they start losing money and they start having to lay off, they it's like a wake up call, like as soon as it happens or something. Right. But yeah, so I keep seeing that constantly, and they don't change. They don't change the formula. They don't change the way that they do business there. And then great new stories, like great new things start coming out. It's like a big contrast if you do read 90s manga from, today manga, like the dialogue is like so different. The thought process is so different,
right.
So yeah, so it's like, it's constantly, just a reminder about that. And like, I do seek out a lot of old stuff, but you really don't, I don't know. It's like, there's some writers that they do it really well. It's really hard to find a really kind of good mixture of like humor and, a good storytelling and a good adventure kind of thing. But you could get a good story, but not the humor, or you don't get it all together or something like that with manga. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. The thing with the key to manga success is the true diversity of genre.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
There's a manga for everybody. It's like you said, that there might be some politics in some of the manga, but you don't have to read that.
Right.
But if you don't like the politics in your comics, then you can't read Marvel or DC because it's all politics.
Right.
They don't give you any choice. There's certainly no diversity of thought. So it's all just sort of lockstep.
Right.
Yeah, but manga is. There's a reason why it's extraordinarily popular even here. And people go, "Oh, it's the end of comics because manga is so popular." It's like, no, manga is so popular. They're making comics popular.
Right.
The medium is healthier than it's been in a long time. So it's always going to be.
It's like you're bringing up the points. It's like, yes, like that's exactly what I was like, about the business thing. It's like, you think about it in a business, and then it's the diversity of all the different it's not just one thing. It's not just Batman. It's not just Superman. It's not. It's like a diversity of things. It's like talk about like you know, where they want you to be creative. Like they want you to come up with something new. They want you to. They don't want you to take on an existing IP and then just make a story out of it. No, they want to know your idea. They want you to come with something. They want you to bring something in and like, you know, bring up an idea and then we'll cultivate it. We'll you know, you have it outlined. You have it anyways, but yeah.
No. And the thing is that makes it fresh. That makes each new generation of manga readers has characters that are theirs.
Yeah.
You know, it's like when you're young, it's important that you have your music. You know, your movie,
right?
Show, and the thing is, if all of your characters are 70 to 80 years old, well, then the generation can never own them.
Right.
You know, they're just sort of inheriting these. You know, not that there's anything wrong. I mean, Superman and Batman Spider-Man, they should still have good comics produced. There's still an audience for them. People still like them, but you have to remain cognizant that you know you have to kind of reinvent them each generation for new readers, and they stopped doing that decades and decades ago.
Right. So we got about, I don't know, 5-10 minutes or so, and then we'll wrap it up and everything. But I was going to tell you, like, so this scene here where, you know, she's flying back home and they, you know, he had to walk home and he's lamenting. Is that the word? It's like where he's just like in his head and he's thinking about all the, you know, what he could have done and how mad about it. Anyways. So he's just thinking about all this stuff, and then she ends up being home, and she can fly now.
Right.
And this whole scene where, like, she's like, nothing is, I wonder what else I could do. Cool. And then, you know, she's off panel waving at somebody. And, like, I remember, you know, like, and then his face here, like, you know, being like he's taking the deepest breath. Like, it's just this whole thing. Like the face, like, I don't know, like he's just like, huh? I don't know. It's always love this scene. It's so funny. I love the way I drew it, and it just.
That's what I mean. I mean, I wrote this scene, and here I am laughing at it, and I've seen it before, obviously, many times. There's when I was doing Way of the Rat at CrossGen, Jeff Johnson was drawing it, and we had this talking monkey character. He was basically the comic relief, and Jeff drew this picture where the monkey is basically kicking the lead character's ass. We find out for the first time the monkey's a martial arts expert. And there's this double-page spread where the hero is flying toward us. He's smashing through furniture and dishware and all this other stuff because the monkey's just kicked it. And the monkey is upside down. And like basically it's the next second of his kick, his jump kick. He's upside down facing away from us with his tail straight out. And I laugh at it every time I see it. It's just such a funny image, and so much of your stuff is that same effect. It's like this is funny all over again.
Oh, cool. Like, well, I mean, man, I just I'm having a lot of fun with My Sister Suprema. I want it to do well. I want to see what else what we can do, where this can go.
Right.
And I want to get it done. You know what I mean? Like, oh yeah, that was the other thing I was going to bring up is that, where I started learning more and more about scheduling myself and getting that schedule down right and doing the calendar. So I got a calendar, I stick to it. But what happens is that like, I'm not I got to color and draw it and I got to do all this stuff with it. So, and then I hear you bring up people, like, what was it? It was Jorge Safino.
Yeah.
You brought up that story where, it's like you got, I guess he was getting like, let's put Jorge Safino on this story. We got to get it out by this time. But it's like, he's not a schedule guy, or he's not he can't get it done in a month. Like he won't be, he's not a monthly artist.
Right.
And then you brought up, I forgot, you kept bringing up different people like, about their scheduling or about, you used the phrase, it was like deadline deadbeats. Yeah. Deadline deadbeats. Right. And I'm like, I feel like I'm always like a mixture of all of it. Like, I'm hearing you, get mad at me or something like that within this all this stuff. No, I know. But I just mean that, but I'm like, I want to get this done and I want to work on it and I want to get to it and I want to see where it goes.
Well, I always say, I don't pay you enough to get mad at you.
I know, yeah. Yeah.
I mean, you're right with Zafino. I was on a podcast yesterday. It was kind of a cross-gen reunion. And
all that. Yep.
Travis Charest kept coming up and I said, yeah, all you guys have like this man crush on Travis Charest.
Yeah. Who was that guy? He was I guess he's still hot, big time hot artist at Marvel. And all the artists at Cross Gen would bring this guy up and just idolize this guy. I said, that guy can't do what any of you can do. You're all doing a book a month. That guy produces a book like every couple of years. And I said, I don't see that much difference between what he's doing and what you guys do. Right.
I'd rather work with you guys, turning the stuff out.
Right.
Doing a page a day.
Yeah. Yeah. I've amped it up and my page my turnaround time, like I can do about 4 pages a week.
Yeah.
That's
I mean, you're doing it all because you're pencil, inking, coloring, lettering. I mean, come on.
Right. And so I'm like, so even that's with like my Suprema, it's like, it comes out to about 3 to 4 pages each script. Yeah. And that's usually like, I mean, it could be 2, but because some of the stuff I just want to show I'm like, I want to take my time with like the pace of this sometimes. Like, I mean, it's because like, it's like, we own it. You know what I mean? Like, and this is like, I really want this to be something. I really want it to be, and I take too much time than I should, on the pages. So that just shows you the care. Like, I want people to hear that. Like, this is how much I care about this. I really want it to be good. And then I was, when I was hearing about different artists, how much they just, I mean, Jorge Safino, how much he agonized over the page, or like, that big famous manga artist, Osamu Tezuka, I forget his name. He was like agonizing over every single page and how he wanted it to look. That's the longest thing for me. I take like usually all day trying to figure out how I want this thing to look. And sometimes it's like half the day, but it's like hours. I'm just thinking about how I want this to look, and I have to sit there and then it'll hit me. Usually I'll have something done and then I'll start drawing, and then it'll hit me as I'm drawing it, or that night I'm in the shower after all day of working, and then all of a sudden my brain's not still working, and I'm like, I got this. This is exactly what I'm going to do.
Hey, if I could write sparkling dialogue like I think of in the shower, I think there's the most amazing things in the shower, and then by the time I get to the keyboard, it's like, what was that? What was that again? and I get like 50% of it down. But yeah, I mean, and that's what I mean about I welcome input from the artist, because we're true collaborators. I mean, you spend all that time thinking about how it's going to look and the story and how to bring these characters out, how to bring them to life. I mean, I appreciate all of that input and all of the additions you've done to it, and all, like I said, the business that you add. It's just fantastic stuff.
And I was going to show you there's so many things I want to show you. We got to do like a part 2.
Sure.
I got to do that so I can just talk to you some more about other things that I didn't bring up. But I want to share this with you. So this was the first. So this is the first series that I worked on, called Seasons. This is what I started. This is when I started like actually getting paid to do comics back in 2017. And this is the 3rd book. And this was like something where like all day I was trying to figure out how, because it's like he's flying. He just discovered he could start flying, and he's going towards the sun. Like, he's just trying to reach out to the sun as close as he possibly can. Right. And you have to kind of like get into it's just the way the dialogue was kind of written. The way he wrote the panels, I didn't draw it the way he did it. And it's not that I didn't like it. I was just kind of like, I really wanted to show people like kind of like, you know, get into it. Like this is
Right.
again a movie. It's like I'm thinking of the movie. I'm thinking of how it's going to look.
You want the show rather than tell. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And so you're just getting really into this, into it. And then like I thought about the next panel where like, okay, he gets up to it. It's a 2-page spread, and he's going to get up there, and he gets as close as he can, and then he kind of like just. I thought about all this at the end of the day. I was drawing this whole thing out, and then I was like in the shower, and I'm like, oh yeah. And then I had to draw this the next day. I had to make sure I remembered it, and I wrote it down, and I was like, you know, out of the shower, you go out there, write it down, the idea. And then it was just him reaching up, and then he just lets himself fall back. And then he just kind of starts, you see him just kind of like chilling out in the air just as he's free falling down into a bunch of birds. And then the birds start whatever. So like that's like the next thing here. Like that.
Oh wow.
So like he's getting real close, and then you see him touch. He gets so close to the sun, and then he's free falling there.
Wow.
All the way down, and you see him like you see the background, and you see him like chilling out right here. You know, his hands are behind his head.
Wow.
And then you see him like, oh, he just kind of like falls into a bunch of like a flock of birds.
Yeah,
I mean, they're flying with them.
That's awesome.
And then they start flying away. And then you're like, he's like, huh? He turns around, and then it's like, boom, it's a huge plane, like about to hit him.
Now, did the writer appreciate this?
Yes, very much.
Oh, okay, well, that's good.
Very much. Yeah, he did. Yeah. These were the, you know, it's like these are the trash pages. Like I had to redo everything. No. Yeah, and then he's like, you know, he's gliding past.
That's beautiful.
So yeah, and then he gets flipped around, and then he goes and he chases it. Now and then, yeah. So now he's flying around there with the plane, and yeah, then he peeks in, and you know, you see them all in there, and then he just shoots up to the air. I was just having a lot of fun with this. Like there was just a lot of, because it's like he writes a lot, so there's like a lot of dialogue. I don't think in this one there was a lot of dialogue.
No, you'd want to abandon most of them or have no dialogue. It's not necessary. I remember when Scott Beatty and I wrote Robin Year One, and we didn't know who was going to be drawing it. And then they said, well, we want this guy Javier Pulido, and they sent us samples of. And I said, well, let me see some pages, let me see some continuity. You know, drawings of superheroes don't do me any good. They send us these continuity pages, and I call Scott and I say, we got to rewrite this issue. Awesome storyteller. You know,
what you're talking about.
You know, we can cross out half of our dialogue. Just have this guy go to town, and that's what we did.
This was the Nightwing?
No, it was the Robin Year One.
Oh, Robin Year One. Okay.
We wrote the whole first issue because, you know, it's like, now this guy, you know, let's let this guy go crazy.
Got it.
Yeah, just beautiful stuff.
Got it.
You got to do that. You got to think about, you know, the end product, which is the most important thing. It's the end product. You know, my name on it, your name on it. It doesn't matter. It's what the reader experiences.
Right.
You know, whose idea was what? Who cares? Oh.
Yeah. There was like I guess I'll leave with this thing where it was like, because I'm always thinking of this one really. Again, I did a video today for like almost an hour talking about Bakuman, and I spoiled a lot. But there's like one scene in there where, like, again, they're going against their rival, and I always remember this scene because I try to like emulate it in some way, like try to do this. Well, okay, so in the scene there, a part of the whole like suspense and the drama and the action is like, you know, did they get enough votes, and, you know, did it beat out so and so, and are they going to get canceled or something like that? So there's a part where like they're working really hard on this chapter, and they really want to beat out Edgy. They want to beat him out. They want to get number one, and they worked really hard on this really kind of really interesting little plot twist and all that kind of stuff. And it's all leading up to this, and it's like, boom, they did it. They thought it was really great. Editor did it and all that kind of stuff. And they were like, yeah. So they turn it in, you know, they have to wait to get the results back after the magazine comes out. So they get the magazine, and they got to see what they did. They're like, they looked at theirs and they're like, yeah, it looks good. And then they go to the rivals, and they were like, they were like floored. Basically, what had happened was, he goes, they spent all this time writing, they spent all this time plotting it, they spent all this time whatever. Then Edgy comes out with a chapter with no dialogue, just pictures, and he beat them. He beat them with nothing. So basically saying, look what I could do. I don't have to say nothing. I don't have to do anything. You spent all that time writing. I didn't have to write nothing. And I just beat you with this. And it was like, and it was amazing. It was just like, whoa, like to tell the story as it carries along without any words, in a comic or whatever, to just tell it like, to do that. That's, again,
right.
I'm like trying to do stuff like that. Where can we do this? Can we? Yeah.
I mean, using the medium, using the language of comics to its fullest extent.
Yeah. Sorry, I ruined that whole.
That's okay.
You're gonna know what's gonna happen now. But no, I don't think.
I got the box set. I'm looking at it right now. I got to get more into it.
Yeah. It's gonna get. It's like that first chapter was amazing.
Yeah.
Because when he blurts out, will you marry me? Basically in the first chapter, you're like, oh my God. You're like, what? Like, you're like, huh? You didn't see that coming. So now it just elevated the story. So instead of him just going like, oh yeah, okay, let's make a manga together. Yeah, let's do it. Let's try to do this. Let's try to really beat it out. And then it turns into more of like an instructional, how to make manga book. Now it's turned into a story. Is that right? Is that like how it goes?
Right. And all of a sudden there's these stakes and there's a ticking clock, because he's got to have his manga turned into an anime by the time his fiance becomes 18, so she can voice act in it. I mean, it's such a great.
Well, no, it's like it has to become famous.
Right, but it has to become an anime. It has to be popular enough.
But the age doesn't. It was like I don't think. Yeah, the age wasn't a matter. It was just it had to be famous, and it had to be famous enough, and then it had to get an anime, and then she had to be the voice actress in it.
Right,
it was like that's what they did, and they were trying to do it as fast as they can.
Right.
Yes, probably before they were 18, but the age thing wasn't a part of it.
Yeah, and then they mentioned the age because she has a dream.
Oh, she did mention the age?
Yeah, she has a dream when she leaves school, she's going to become a voice actor.
Right.
So in his mind, it's kind of like, well, I got a deadline.
Oh, okay, yeah. So, yeah, and it just elevated the story. It just like now it was like, this is amazing. It was like, now I can't wait to read this thing, because it's not just about making manga. It's like now you have a whole other real, like, I don't know, like human element to it that just elevated the story that you can I don't know. It's like you can relate to it, but it's like, it's like a fantasy. It's just like, I don't know. You're better at understanding that to me than me, but
well, also for someone like you or me, you're also reading it going, well, what is the process like over there?
Right.
I mean, okay, they want to put a manga together. They're going to take it to the publisher. But what happens next? What's that like in Japan versus what it's like in the United States? And very, very different process.
Right.
A much fairer process from beginning to end.
Yeah.
Than what we have here.
Yeah, and it like it made me really think about like it was all about like the business stuff and like the real life there. I mean, like in Bakuman, it really does show you that life goes by, like time goes by, and like you are spending. It really does show you everything about the business.
Yeah.
It shows their life is going by, because there's like another chapter like later on where they reflect. They go, whoa, like, yeah, we can't go out. Like, we can't go out with friends. We can't do this. A very famous, his name is Kiya Asamiya. He's a very like influential manga artist for me, and he's a story writer, and he's very prolific himself. And he's worked on a bunch of stuff, bunch of things. And I read, and I get these things, and they have little interviews with him. And he says that, he has an office that he goes to, and he works there. But it's basically, he says he lives there, and he has a family and kids. And he says he does go home once a month to go hug them. And he's like, ha ha ha, like it was really funny, like, wow. I was like, whoa, I was like,
Wow.
that's not really that funny. I mean, like, is that a common thing in Asia, you know, in like Japan maybe? But I was like, I don't know, I can't do that. I mean, I know what you mean.
Yeah, I mean, I spent a lot of time working, nothing like
Mhm.
that, but it
Right.
wasn't until basically I took the month of May off. It's the first time I've had off in 30 years,
Whoa.
because I got a little bit of movie money, and I'm like, well, why am I killing myself? I don't, I can take some time,
Right. Right.
and I've been doing things like this, podcasts and videos and stuff like that in place of writing, but
Right.
just
Right.
I guess I'm recharging. I don't know.
There you there you go.
But
Well,
yeah, I get it. Like I said before, once you're in that space, once you have those opportunities,
uh-huh.
you just want to keep rowing that boat.
Yeah. And that's it's like I find the same thing. I mean, I can easily find work. I can easily find work with people, and but it's like the scheduling. It's just like I want to spend time with my family. I wanna
Yeah,
go.
yeah,
But I got to put food on the table, and we got to pay the bills, and I'm like, okay, so it all really does come down to the priorities and the scheduling, and like that's it. Like that's getting it all done, and but
but the
then also
thing
the
is, I mean,
output.
you work at home, I work at home.
Uh-huh.
We probably see our kids more. We might work longer hours and everything else, but we see our kids more than most people.
Yes.
Because we're in their
Yeah.
lives all day long.
I mean, my kid's 4 now, and I've seen him pretty much every single day since he was born. Because at the time COVID had hit back in 2020, I was working at Daily Wire. I was going into the office every day. And then when the lockdown happened, and then they didn't let anybody come home, and I mean, sorry, they didn't let everybody go to the office. And then they opened up the office, but you could stay home if you wanted. And I just chose to stay home. So my son was born in May of 2020, and so I've been stay at home working ever since. So it's just
Yeah,
like that's what's awesome. So and I
well,
do I
and if you don't know this already as a parent, it's not about quality time; it's about quantity time.
right,
So it's a blessing to be able to work at home when you have kids because
right.
they're around and they can see you working, and that teaches them a lot.
Oh yeah.
Both my boys, they're both hard workers because they see me doing it.
Hmm.
I'm not quite sure how inspiring it is me just sitting here staring at the screen all day, but they see the books coming with my
Uh-huh.
name on it, and they realize, oh, he is doing something.
Yeah, like is it like the same with your kids growing up where like, okay, so my son, he just sits over there in the corner of my office, like right over there, and he just like, we can't see it, but he
Yeah.
just sits over there and he has all the books. He just sits there and reads all the comics, and
Yeah.
he's sitting there reading in the corner there all the time, like in the office.
Well, my office in Pennsylvania was, the floor was a toy soldier battleground or
Right.
a building area or whatever, while
Yeah.
I was working, and I like that. There was a time when my schedule got real intense and I got an outside office, but I was only there like 3 days a week.
Yeah.
It got to the point where they were I just really needed to crank stuff out.
Right.
But I was still working at home.
Yeah.
And I was home every night. I didn't, I can't imagine just seeing the kids once a month. But the manga schedules, those are nuts. Those are crazy.
Yeah, like the guy, another one of my favorite mangaka was like he did like Monster, and then he did Pluto, he did 20th Century Boys, and these are all huge hits, and he was cranking out, he said 130 pages a month because
Wow.
he had to hit, and that was like when he was working on Monster. I was like, what? Like this is like a really great manga and like really well paced and everything. It doesn't even seem like he was hurrying through it. And that was like that was just a few pages a day. Like I was like, holy moly, it's like 4 pages, 5 pages a day. And I'm like,
was he the artist or the writer or both?
He was everything. He was writing. He was the writer. I think it was like co-writer. Actually, I have to go look at that now. I think he was the writer, inker, right, everything. So he did everything. So and maybe he had like background artists do it or something like that. And Conan. But he's like busy guy, and like he does, and he's very another prolific guy. But there is something about these stories that just keep getting cranked out that I do like a lot, because there just seems to be a lot more in it without the people that like take a long time or something like that. Like, I mean, I like them too, but I mean, like, I'm always attracted to the people that like crank out so much stuff and like keep doing it, and there seems to be a lot there. At the
Well,
same time.
you get on a roll, you know,
Mhm.
and
Yeah.
you know, that's
Yeah.
what I do. I just get on a roll with something. You
Yeah.
know, once I get going, you know, and I don't start on anything until I know, okay, I got it. I got a handle on this one. I know where I'm
Yeah.
going on it.
Well, there seemed to be like with when I was reading like Larry Hama and I was reading Archie Goodwin, all the stuff that you suggested, and I was like reading them, and they're pretty prolific too, right? I mean, they have like tons of stuff, and I'm reading them, and I'm like the depth sometimes, like they don't ignore a lot of things like a lot of writers today do. Like, let's say if it's going to go, there's a moment of like the divine, like they don't like, there's like a moment of like if you're a secular writer, and then if you introduce like religious elements to it, but you're not doing it to sort of just poo-poo it again or put it down or desecrate it. But if you actually have your characters like be challenged and think, there's like moments of like clarity. There's moments of like where heightened awareness about certain things. It's like there are moments like that like there's like a pause or there's like a really, really deep moment here but that's just like the depth of like, you know, where you're just going along with the story. You're just kind of going where the story wants to go. You're not just like forcing it to be like this. You're just sort of writing it. And there's something about that, just cranking it out, just doing the work and then beginning, middle, and end. You know, it's like you just do it and then you get it over and done with, where you just kind of go where the story goes. There's something about that. There's just,
well,
you know, that
you know what's really depressing about Larry Hama is he writes comics on Tuesday evenings. That's it.
That's it?
That's it.
Huh.
You know, the rest of the time he's doing like voiceover work or playing music or playing with his swords or something else. But he always Tuesday evening he writes comic books. It's like I can't even get my head around that.
Wow.
And to turn out the quality of work. And he's a guy that he don't know what he's going to do when he sits down. It's all in your pants, which is amazing to me.
Wow.
Because his stories, they're so well constructed. His characters are so believable.
Huh.
You know, it's hard to believe he just sort of like just came out of him all at once on a Tuesday evening, you know.
Yeah, on a Tuesday evening, it's like
trying to write the comic books. Boom, blam, here's something. This is genius.
Wow. Just thinking about that. Wow. All right. Well, okay. I said we had to get off like a long time ago, but we'll
do another one.
Yeah, we'll do another one. We'll do that. I have a lot of more questions too about fatherhood, about, you know, more about comic book writing stuff that I didn't even get to, that I'll bother you about. And then, yeah, we'll do that.
Sounds good. Good.
So let's see, let me put some stuff in the chat, real quick. Here we go. There's your YouTube channel. Your Ask Chuck Dixon. Invaluable, very great information there that I learned a lot about writing, a lot about comics. Here's the sign up for Joe Frankenstein. Here's the sign up list. It's going to be tomorrow. We're going to be live on that tomorrow. No, I think it's like the afternoon, right?
It's noon Eastern time.
Okay. Yeah. So that's going to be 11 May. So there you go. Yeah. Okay. And then all the other.
He might do another one in the evening. So.
Got it. Okay. So there you go. And all right. Chuck, thank you so much for
I enjoyed it.
coming on and talking comics, talking My Sister Suprema with me and Bakuman and all that stuff. And we'll have to do this again. Thank you everybody for showing up and watching. Hit that like, subscribe to the channel. And yeah, so we'll see you next time. All right. Let's end that there.